about that. Okay. Um, the second section or second division, the idea of things being made by nature, in James Elkin's book, How to See, How to Use Your Eyes. Um, I'll include the chapter in perspective here, though I think it kind of rides the line of man-made, nature-made. Uh, he wrote, these days it's not easy to find a picture that's not in perspective. Um, I thought that was really interesting because I've been intentionally working in a way to not show any kind of perspective in my work, and I've wanted any depth I've wanted to create. I've wanted to do it from layering forms in my work, and not through trying to create some sense of three-dimensional perspective. I thought that was interesting, and that's kind of caused me to look more closely at images that I'm seeing because um, uh, it's not something I ever think about. Wow, there really are so many pictures, and perspective is being used, but that's something I've been trying to avoid in my art. So I thought that was kind of funny. Um, uh, and then in chapter 19, how to look at a face, um, I wrote down this quote: "The bulge of the forehead is the frontal eminence." Um, and the first thing that came to my mind is that this is a category of things that I will never ever say to my wife. Never. Just not going to do it. We're not going to discuss this chapter. We're not going to discuss any of the things the hammocks that the skin hammocks he described. We're not gonna talk about any of that. Um, all joking aside, his section about the aging face. He said, "This is what it means to say that gravity takes its toll. Gravity pulls the fat down, revealing the underlying fascia, I think is how you say it, I'm not sure. What was once a network of tissues becomes a series of slumps and slides ending in hammocks of fascia. And the latter, if you, and then later, if you're brave enough, take this book to the mirror," which is sort of what I'm doing right now with recording a video of my aging face, talking to whoever I'm talking to. Um, Making a connection between that chapter and my art, um, it's not a direct connection, but it brought to mind a verse from antiquity in the books of the poets, in the Holy Bible. The book of Ecclesiastes says in chapter 3, "There is a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot." And that verse was running through my mind as I was reading that chapter, because the imminence of time and aging, um, it it's such a sobering thing to think of it that way, um, and to look at yourself in that light. And that's something that I think, as a culture, at least in America, we have a tendency. Certainly, not everybody does this, but we have a tendency to work at avoiding thinking of ourselves as aging, and um, the result can be, uh, shallow thinking about ourselves, um, or about those who are in our lives, and I think that can wash into a person's, into an artist's work, um, and it just it. The past few years of my life have been incredibly difficult. I've been brought face to face with the reality of death and the end of life, under a variety of circumstances. And um, I appreciate this about Elkins in general. He has a very serious perspective on the world. And it's joy filled, and it's also sober and realistic. And I think that's something that I always want to be. So I really appreciated that. Thanks again for taking the time to listen.